Hello my darlings. Welcome back to Oni-chan's channel. Oni is bringing you another super addictive romance story today. As always, it's going to be dramatic and thrilling. There's going to be a whole lot of sizzling drama. Like frying snacks in oil, haha. Today's story is about the love between a teacher and a student. The teacher will become the hero, and also the future husband of our main boy. Teehee. Oni invites you all to enjoy and feel the emotions together. Let's dive in and get started now. The main character returned home in the evening. On the TV, a superhero movie was playing where heroes fought against monsters. Since childhood, he had always hated those so-called heroes. Because no matter how hard life got, they never showed up to help. Everything began to change the day he met that man. The main character's name was Masahiro. He had just bought a lot of food from a convenience store. He wasn't buying for himself, but for a group of thugs. They called him Seti, like it was his name. They treated him like an obedient dog that followed orders. Masahiro even remembered all of their personal preferences. Despite that, Masahiro still smiled, because ever since he was young, he never had a place to truly call home. Hanging out with these thugs still felt more fun than being alone at home. It wasn't that he felt lonely or hated his life. It was just that, by now, everything had become a habit. Masahiro continued his way home as usual. His mother only cared about work and didn't even look at him. Then he received a phone call from the gang leader. The leader informed him that the bear killer was now out on the street. And that guy was heading straight to their hangout spot. The leader ordered Masahiro to gather everyone immediately. Masahiro followed the order without hesitation and left right away. The truth was, he didn't want to fight at all. The bear killer had become a well-known name recently. Even the gang members got scared just hearing his name. Masahiro arrived at the spot but saw no one there. He tried calling them, but no one answered. Then he found out that the whole gang had already been defeated. The ones who were still conscious confirmed it was the bear killer's doing. Every single one of them had been taken down. All Masahiro could learn was that the guy wore a strange t-shirt and had a mole on his face. He returned home. He couldn't believe that the bear killer had taken down everyone all by himself. Masahiro had just walked past the bear killer a moment ago. Masahiro began to wonder if that man might actually be a real hero. The school's closing ceremony had also begun. Masahiro graduated from middle school and was preparing to enter high school. Oshiba was his best friend. The two of them had known each other since elementary school. Oshiba truly hoped they could still be in the same class in high school. Masahiro thought back to a moment from the past. One day, he returned to his house. But he saw a scene he never wanted to witness. Without hesitation, he turned around and left immediately. His mother had brought another man home to sleep with again. To Masahiro, that was the most forbidden thing for a teenager going through puberty. Now, he didn't even know where he could go. His pockets were completely empty with not a single coin left. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a cat meowing. He followed the sound to where it came from. That's when he found Oshiba already there. A tiny kitten had been abandoned there. The kitten was in terrible condition. Oshiba decided to take it home and care for it. But he wanted Masahiro to be the pet expert and help out. The two of them walked home together and talked. Oshiba opened up about a friend he used to be close with. They had lost contact completely after the friend transferred to another school. Oshiba tried to act like it was no big deal and pretended he didn't care. Soon, they were almost home. Oshiba encouraged Masahiro to walk a little faster. When they got home, the kitten was given some milk. Masahiro felt genuinely happy that the little cat had found a home. Suddenly, Oshiba panicked. If his brother found out he brought a cat home, he'd beat him half to death. Because Oshiba knew just how terrifying his brother could be. That very day, his brother said he was going to take down a group of gang members. When Masahiro heard that, he wondered, could his brother actually be the infamous bear killer? Sure enough. Every detail Masahiro mentioned, Oshiba confirmed as correct. Just then, Oshiba's brother returned home. Masahiro thought, not even in a dream could he have imagined meeting him like this. Soon, the day to announce high school class assignments arrived. Oshiba was already waiting for Masahiro when he showed up. Fortunately, they were placed in the same class again. But then Oshiba noticed the name, Hasakura Asaya, on the list. The moment his name was mentioned, Hasakura himself appeared. Instantly, He became the center of attention among many female students. And of course, it was all because of his ridiculously good looks. Embarrassed, Oshiba quickly walked away. Masahiro had no idea what was going on with him. Then he found out the shocking truth. Hasakura was the close friend who had cut ties with Oshiba. Oshiba couldn't believe this was really happening. Even more surprising, they were now classmates again. Masahiro saw it as something from the past. But Oshiba admitted he didn't have the courage to apologize to him. Two girls came over to talk to Oshiba. They wanted to know if Hasakura already had a girlfriend, since they heard that Oshiba and Hasakura used to be close back in elementary school. They were eager to find out whether Hasakura was dating anyone. Oshiba casually promised he would find out. Then the two girls left. Oshiba turned to Masahiro and asked him for help with this. But Masahiro had never even spoken a single word to Hasakura. Oshiba then recalled what had happened between them. The two of them had gotten into a huge argument in the past. Oshiba also declared that the two of them would never be friends again. He admitted that he didn't do it on purpose at that time. The next class still took place and ended as usual. Masahiro was about to go home when he received a phone call. He became extremely confused. It was because Kosuke himself was the one calling him. Kosuke asked how Masahiro had been, since they hadn't talked in a long time. He also found out that Masahiro and his younger brother were in the same class. Kosuke hoped Masahiro could stand on his own feet. He advised Masahiro not to get involved with those delinquents anymore. Masahiro replied that he had already cut ties with them a long time ago. Kosuke felt relieved and asked Masahiro to help look after his brother. Masahiro also took the chance to ask about Kosuke's situation. Currently, Kosuke said he couldn't return just yet. It was because a teacher alone couldn't decide such things. Masahiro apologized for asking such a weird question, but he still promised to follow Kosuke's advice. Masahiro then went home and made up his mind. He hoped that when Kosuke returned, he would see him in a better light. Suddenly, a few gang members showed up at the school. When Masahiro saw them, he tried to stay out of sight. Oshiba was cleaning the classroom when he noticed Hasakura was already inside. He was quite surprised to see him there. Hasakura was very happy that they could meet again and be in the same class. He noticed that Oshiba had gotten taller than before, but in return, he was still just as clumsy as ever. Hasakura suggested that they go home together. Oshiba said maybe next time and quickly left. Meanwhile, the gang members were still investigating someone named Seti. They were certain that Seti was currently attending this school. Another student was being threatened by them. Masahiro remembered his promise and didn't want to get involved with them anymore. The two girls came to see Oshiba once again. They wanted to know if he had asked about that issue yet. Oshiba didn't know how to respond. Hasakura showed up again and wanted them to go home together. Oshiba once again ran away as fast as he could. He immediately went to find Masahiro and begged for help. And just like that, the gang accidentally found the person they called Seti. They didn't understand why he had stopped contacting them. Without hesitation, he chose to run away as his best strategy. But the gang kept chasing after him. Later, Masahiro and Oshiba hid inside a toy storage room in a nearby park. Oshiba had no idea what the heck was going on. The three gang members continued searching for them. They picked up Masahiro's bracelet on the ground. That meant they had figured out where he was hiding. They arrived and sarcastically praised him for being good at hide and seek. Suddenly, Kosuke appeared out of nowhere. The gang immediately ran away without hesitation. Kosuke had no idea what the two were even doing. Instead of going to school, they were out here fooling around. Oshiba didn't understand why his brother was even here. Kosuke said he wanted to surprise them. He also revealed that the principal had called him back to the school. There might be an open teaching position available. He said he might occasionally teach math this semester. Oshiba felt like his high school life was officially over. Meanwhile, Masahiro thought the hero of his life had finally arrived. Back then, the argument happened because Hasakura had to transfer schools. He was forced to move away with his family. Oshiba got angry and ended up saying some hurtful things. Early the next morning, Kosuke helped their mother prepare food. Oshiba had just woken up. His hair was an absolute mess. He told his mother that he didn't want to eat breakfast. He also said he wanted to take the day off from school. His brother wondered if maybe he was sick. Or perhaps he had gotten into trouble with his homeroom teacher. Oshiba only said that he felt a bit down and wasn't feeling well. That day was also Kosuke's first day teaching at the school. Still, Oshiba had no choice but to go to school. Masahiro shared the same fate and also had to go. One of them was worried because of a strange dream. The other one was nervous because Kosuke would be teaching today. As soon as Oshiba saw Hasakura arrive, he quickly left. Because the math teacher was on maternity leave, Kosuke would now be teaching math for Masahiro's class. Masahiro felt a strange sensation. For some reason, he really liked watching Kosuke standing at the podium. Kosuke was focused on introducing himself and explaining his teaching methods. That made Masahiro instinctively nod and agree to everything. The rest of the class didn't understand why he was acting that way. Meanwhile, Oshiba was still very confused about his friendship with Hasakura. During the break, some classmates started investigating the relationship between the new teacher, Oshiba, and Masahiro. They found out that one of them was his younger brother, and the other used to be his underling. So they decided they wanted to be close friends with Masahiro. But Masahiro told them that he definitely didn't get any early access to the test questions. He warned them that if the teacher ever got angry, they'd be doomed for sure. The two girls showed up again to talk to Oshiba. Oshiba immediately grabbed Masahiro and dragged him away. The two girls were still disappointed that Oshiba hadn't asked about it yet. "How can you call yourself a best friend if you don't even dare to ask?" they said. They really wanted to know more about Hasakura. They warned Oshiba to ask today, no excuses, and then walked off. Masahiro wondered why Oshiba couldn't bring himself to talk to Hasakura. He kept bringing up that argument again. Masahiro thought that maybe he had his own reasons. Oshiba continued telling the story from the past. At that time, the two of them promised to stay together forever. Even so, he still didn't dare to apologize to him, even though he now regretted the words he had said. Masahiro felt a bit jealous of his friend. Because his friend had someone who truly cared about him, Oshiba thought that maybe he was the only one still thinking about it. As for him, he probably didn't even remember what had happened. That's why, when they met again, he acted like nothing had ever happened. Kosuke went to meet some old friends and had a few drinks. He told his friends the real reason why he came back. Since they hadn't seen each other for so long, the group decided to party hard until no one could stand. A new day began. Kosuke stood in front of the school gate. Everyone greeted him, saying, "Good morning, teacher." In return, Hasakura didn't say a word. Kosuke was also curious about this behavior. Hasakura just gave a short greeting and showed no interest at all. Still, Kosuke gave him some generous compliments. He brought up the old days between Hasakura and his younger brother. He was truly happy that the two of them met again. He hoped they would support each other from now on. Hasakura walked away without saying anything more. Later, Oshiba learned that Hasakura had talked to his brother. Oshiba hadn't expected his brother to know everything, even though he had tried to keep it secret. He didn't know if his brother had said anything to Hasakura. Suddenly, the teacher asked him to go to the storage room and bring some materials for the next class. The teacher had asked Hasakura first, but it seemed he was a bit slow. Since the teacher knew they were best friends, he thought Oshiba was the most suitable person for the task. Masahiro saw this as a great opportunity. Oshiba wanted him to go with him, because he didn't want to go in there alone like that. But in the end, he had to accept going there by himself. When he got inside, he explained the reason he had come. Hasakura was glad that someone came to help. Oshiba was determined to stay calm. Meanwhile, Hasakura acted completely normal, as if nothing had ever happened between the two of them. He suggested that they should carry the materials together. Hearing the word "together" made Oshiba upset, because the two of them had already stopped being friends. Since that time, he had been trying to forget his best friend. But the truth was, he could never really do it. Hasakura also admitted that he had just been pretending, because of the promise they made to stay together forever. But then, he had to transfer schools and follow his parents. He admitted that he had no other choice. He had always wanted the two of them to make up again. That's why he chose to attend this school. Even after transferring, one more time, Hasakura said he wanted to see Oshiba's smile. Oshiba finally said that he had never once hated his best friend. He admitted it had been a long time since he saw his face and smelled his scent. Hasakura was about to lean in and kiss his closest friend. But suddenly, the teacher showed up and they had to stop. From that meeting, the two of them officially made up with each other. The two girls came to see Oshiba again. He promised that after school, he would walk home with both of them and ask Hasakura. They exchanged phone numbers with each other. That made the other boys feel jealous. In the afternoon, the two boys walked home together. It had been a long time since they had been together like this. They talked and reminisced about old memories as they walked side by side. When they were kids, Oshiba was always the one protecting Hasakura. They kept talking about the fun memories they shared. The two of them had once written a story together about courage. They got so caught up in catching beetles that they wandered deep into the forest. Then, a sudden rain came, and they had to take shelter under a tree. Even though they were scared, they stayed together the whole time. Luckily, Kosuke found both of them. After the rain, the sky cleared up again. They believed they would make even more memories together in the future. Oshiba asked about his best friend's girlfriend. He said that the girls in class were curious. Hasakura replied that he didn't have a girlfriend. He even joked that maybe the girls actually liked Oshiba instead. Because it's not easy to talk about someone who likes you. Especially when that person doesn't even understand your feelings. Hasakura apologized and walked away. Oshiba heard that he lived alone and wanted to visit his best friend's place. But Hasakura didn't seem to want that. After going home, Oshiba thought about what his closest friend had said. He admitted that Hasakura had been acting really strange. It felt like he was talking about someone very special. A new day began. The two of them ran into each other on the way to school. They kept chatting and opening up to each other. Oshiba still wanted to visit Hasakura's place. He wanted to know what kind of life his friend was living. Hasakura said that if he really came over, he couldn't guarantee he wouldn't do something. But Oshiba just smiled and stayed cheerful without thinking too much. Suddenly, Hasakura asked, "Do you like me?" Oshiba admitted that he did. And his friend felt the same way. So Oshiba took that as a draw. And called it even. He still didn't understand what his friend was trying to say. Hasakura angrily grabbed him and pulled him along. The two of them ended up under a bridge. Hasakura wanted to explain more clearly about the feelings they had for each other. He decided to take the initiative. Without warning, he kissed his best friend with all his emotions. Oshiba had no idea what the hell was going on. Hasakura just wanted to use this to make him understand. Ever since they were apart, Hasakura realized his true feelings. No matter what, he had to be with Oshiba. Now, there were only two choices. 1. Sleep with him. 2. Cut ties completely. Early in the morning, Oshiba woke up after a terrible nightmare. Even at breakfast, he was still haunted by it. He thought of Hasakura as a dumb guy who says weird things. Oshiba went to school as usual. But he kept remembering the two choices Hasakura had given him. He told himself he would choose to cut ties. He started struggling with his own thoughts. As he walked, he kept wondering when Hasakura had become like that. Suddenly, he saw a beautiful car on the street. Even more surprising, he saw Hasakura talking with a girl. Later, Oshiba told Masahiro everything that happened. He said his friend was being forced to choose one of the two options. But for Oshiba, neither option was acceptable. Masahiro thought maybe they could ask Hasakura to take it slow. Oshiba continued telling him about the fancy car and the girl. Masahiro guessed it might be payback for something from 3 years ago. Oshiba felt relieved, thinking maybe this was all just a joke. He went to find Hasakura again. Oshiba even invited him to eat lunch together. In his heart, he still believed they were friends. But the next class was taught by his older brother. So Oshiba didn't want to be late. Hasakura wondered if Masahiro knew what the two of them had talked about. The next class continued as usual. Oshiba, however, kept thinking about having lunch with his emotionally confusing best friend. He couldn't focus on the lesson at all. His brother even noticed something was off. Masahiro still felt awkward around the older brother. When lunch break came, Oshiba didn't even know why he was here. He didn't expect to be involved in all this. And now he had to witness the lovey-dovey awkwardness between the two. Even during lunch, the two troublemakers wouldn't let him eat in peace. Right after taking a bite of Oshiba's lunch, Masahiro was openly threatened by Hasakura. Oshiba, being clueless as ever, didn't realize anything. Hasakura stopped eating and stood up to leave. Then, he pulled Oshiba away to talk in private. "Kosuke, Oshiba's older brother, noticed and figured something was going on between them. He advised Masahiro not to interfere with his younger brother's matters. Let Oshiba make his own decision. And he wanted Masahiro to do the same for himself. Just follow your heart, that's enough. Masahiro's face turned red with embarrassment. Hasakura then asked Oshiba for his answer to yesterday's choices. Oshiba thought it was just a joke and brought up what happened that morning. Hasakura asked how he felt when he saw him with that girl. Then, he asked to touch Oshiba for 5 minutes. Oshiba figured that if he refused, they couldn't stay friends anymore. So he gave him permission. Hasakura, though, wanted a kiss instead, but Oshiba firmly refused. Then, Hasakura declared that his 5-minute personal challenge would begin. When Masahiro returned to class, he was surprisingly happy. He couldn't believe that just getting his head patted made him like it that much. 5 minutes had passed. Oshiba thought that maybe the two of them could go back to being normal friends. But Hasakura didn't expect that after everything, Oshiba would still consider them friends. Then, he turned and left. Oshiba, however, was still worried about his friend. Hasakura didn't say much after that. He suddenly kissed his best friend. Just like that, with no hesitation. Oshiba didn't understand why Hasakura remained so calm. Hasakura said he had never once seen Oshiba as just a normal friend. That night, Oshiba couldn't sleep, haunted by those words. He remembered the times they had shared together. They had been so happy back then. But now, everything felt completely different. He didn't know how he would face Hasakura's eyes the next day. He even wished that tomorrow would never come. But a new day still began. That day, Hasakura didn't come to school again. Oshiba felt relieved that he didn't have to face him. And then, the same thing happened the next day. The situation didn't change at all. The other classmates were wondering if something had happened to Hasakura. Oshiba himself didn't know what to think anymore. Masahiro came and said that his older brother advised him not to get involved. It seemed like Oshiba was the one who had cornered Hasakura, because he had kept avoiding the truth and never made things clear. Oshiba felt angry, not knowing what he should do anymore. Masahiro admitted he didn't know either, because it was something between just the two of them. After that, the two of them walked home together. On the way, they ran into Kosuke. Oshiba saw the girl who had been talking to Hasakura. It was Ayaka, his older sister. Oshiba remembered her, since it had been a long time since they last met. Now, Oshiba finally realized that everything he thought was probably just a misunderstanding. Ayaka also told him that she had lost contact with her younger brother. Oshiba immediately left without saying anything. His older brother acknowledged that Oshiba had finally come to his senses. And once again, he repeated the same words, "Just follow your heart." Oshiba started running like crazy, desperate to find his best friend. After a while, he arrived at Hasakura's house. But Hasakura wasn't home because he was out for a medical checkup. Still, Oshiba kept running around, trying to find him. While running, he recalled all the memories they had shared together. And eventually, he was overcome with emotion and began to cry. Meanwhile, Ayaka called Hasakura to check on him. She asked whether he had met Oshiba yet, because she knew Oshiba had come looking for her brother. But Hasakura thought it was impossible. He believed there was no way Oshiba would come, since he had said something so awful and shameful to him. Just as he reached home, Hasakura noticed Oshiba's backpack by the door. Inside the bag was something from their childhood, a story about the courage they once shared. Oshiba was also heading toward their usual old tree. To his surprise, Hasakura had already arrived there before him. Hasakura didn't know why Oshiba had come to that place, but he still wanted to explain everything and tell Oshiba the truth. Unfortunately, his words and his rational thoughts wouldn't align. Hasakura thought maybe he should just go home so others wouldn't worry. Tears finally fell from his eyes, crocodile tears. Perhaps. Oshiba then began to speak from the bottom of his heart. He said that being apart from Hasakura was the thing he hated most. Hasakura immediately pulled Oshiba into a hug. He apologized for putting his best friend in such a difficult situation. Then he confessed sincerely, "I truly love you. What I feel for you now is no longer just simple friendship. These emotions, they've become something much deeper." Oshiba had already sensed what was truly happening. Then, Hasakura finally woke up. He felt that his fever had gone down. Oshiba was still sitting by his side. The two of them started talking about the trip to the mountain. Hasakura explained that he found out Oshiba was there by reading the old, courage diary they had kept together. After hearing that, Oshiba felt genuinely happy. Hasakura looked into his eyes and said again, "I really love you." He didn't want them to be just friends anymore. He wanted them to be lovers instead. He wanted Oshiba to truly understand how serious he was. And Oshiba accepted. "Yes, I do," he replied. And so, their love story officially began. The next day, a small party was held. Masahiro was the one who prepared all the food. A few of their guy friends also came over to join and play games. The three of them started gossiping about Hasakura and Oshiba's relationship. Meanwhile, the couple was upstairs, cuddling with each other. Hasakura was clearly enjoying pampering his beloved best friend. On the other hand, Oshiba wanted to go downstairs because Masahiro and the others were waiting. But the moment Masahiro's name came up, Hasakura pouted. He said that if Oshiba wanted him to stop sulking, then he had to spoil him a little. No matter what happened, Oshiba wasn't allowed to run away. Oshiba considered saying no, but Hasakura sulked even more. So in the end, Oshiba gave in and agreed to whatever Hasakura wanted. The first thing on the list was to take off his clothes and head to the bath. Hasakura began by washing Oshiba thoroughly. Then he brushed his teeth, clipped his nails, massaged his feet, and finally, applied a face mask. Hasakura admitted that Oshiba felt as soft as a little cloud. Downstairs, the others heard strange noises and started guessing whether the two were sword fighting or something. A short while later, Kosuke arrived home. The party officially began. Everyone gathered to enjoy the food together. They all agreed that Masahiro's cooking was absolutely amazing. After eating, they spent time chatting and joking around. Meanwhile, Hasakura was visibly jealous of how close Oshiba and Masahiro seemed to be. The party continued on in a cheerful and lively mood. After eating their fill, it was time to clean up. Kosuke called out to Masahiro. He asked him to choose some questions for the upcoming test. Masahiro hesitated, thinking it wouldn't be appropriate. But Kosuke reassured him it wasn't for Masahiro's class. Masahiro admitted that sometimes he forgot Kosuke was actually a teacher. Just then, Kosuke realized he was out of cigarettes. Masahiro offered to go buy them, saying Kosuke could pay him back later. But Kosuke didn't like the idea of owing someone, so he handed Masahiro the money directly. And their hands accidentally touched. Masahiro, feeling a bit flustered, quickly changed the subject and asked if anyone else needed anything from the store. After taking everyone's requests, he politely excused himself and left. Meanwhile, Kosuke still couldn't shake off the strange feeling from earlier. He suddenly remembered, minors weren't allowed to buy cigarettes. Without another word, he rushed out of the house. Eventually, both Masahiro and Kosuke finished the shopping and came back home. Masahiro admitted he completely forgot about the cigarette rule. Kosuke told him it was okay and thanked him for the effort. He also apologized for dragging Masahiro into all sorts of things. The two of them ended up talking about Oshiba and Hasakura. It seemed like things between those two were finally going well. Masahiro also opened up about himself. He confessed that ever since Kosuke came into his life, everything had changed completely. Suddenly, after hearing those words, he stopped in his tracks. He looked at Masahiro with pity in his eyes. He asked how Masahiro felt when he saw Oshiba and Hasakura being so close. He wanted to know, was Masahiro jealous of that scene? Then he apologized, saying everything was his fault, because even if Masahiro had feelings like that, he himself could never return them. Masahiro had no idea what he was talking about, so the man decided to be direct. He said he had tried to be gentle, but Masahiro just didn't get it. Everything was already written all over Masahiro's face. "Destroy me," he said. "Crush me completely." After that, Masahiro went to his part-time job. He worked with extra energy, trying to forget about the trauma from the day before. Yesterday, when he got exposed, he could only take it silently. He couldn't say anything to defend himself. He never expected that the man would misunderstand everything like that. Just because Oshiba and Hasakura were close didn't mean he was the same. Absolutely not. That kind of thing would never happen. Even the store manager acknowledged how hard-working Masahiro was. He said it was rare to find someone like him. But of course, He had no idea that Masahiro was only trying to hide his emotions. Masahiro returned home after a long, exhausting day at work, but as soon as he got back, he found his mom had brought guests over. So, once again, he wandered the streets alone. He couldn't stop thinking about those words. Just then, someone ran past and accidentally dropped something. Masahiro bent down to pick it up. To his horror, it turned out to be a pair of underwear. And just like that, someone grabbed him. He was immediately mistaken for a perverted thief, because he was a high school student wandering around at that hour. The police insisted on checking his ID. After that, Kosuke was also called to the scene. Fortunately, the detective in charge happened to be an acquaintance of Kosuke's. So, Masahiro was allowed to return home with Kosuke. On the way, Kosuke asked about Masahiro's family situation. He said he might be able to help if Masahiro opened up. Masahiro only said things were better than before. He hoped Kosuke wouldn't worry too much about it. Then, Kosuke suddenly pulled the car over. If everything was really fine, he said, Masahiro could go home now. So, what do you want? He asked. To go home or come to my place? Masahiro decided to go home. He said goodbye and immediately walked away. Luckily, his mother wasn't home when he arrived. Still, he couldn't stop thinking about Kosuke's face. That man had truly given him a place to belong. But the words about being jealous of Oshiba and Hasakura kept bothering him. The next day at school, Masahiro looked completely lifeless. His best friends had no idea what was wrong with him. Even Hasakura wasn't jealous of him anymore. Instead, he had started to pity him. Masahiro didn't understand what he meant by that. Just then, Kosuke arrived. Masahiro immediately left to go get lunch. But since he was late, there was nothing left to eat. He had no choice but to accept it. Lost in thought, he accidentally bumped into a group of girls. There, he met someone he knew. It was Sato. She gave him a piece of bread. Knowing he had missed lunch, this small gesture didn't go unnoticed by Kosuke. He saw everything and felt strangely irritated. Meanwhile, Masahiro thought Sato was really kind. Then, Kosuke appeared again. Masahiro tried to run away, but he couldn't escape from him. Kosuke knew Masahiro was deliberately avoiding him. It was probably because of the things he had said earlier. Kosuke said that if those things weren't cleared up, it would just make things harder for Masahiro. Masahiro insisted that Kosuke didn't need to worry about him. He said everything was just a misunderstanding. He firmly declared that he liked girls. But Kosuke didn't want Masahiro to force himself to pretend. It's true that I said I couldn't return your feelings, he added. But you're still my student. And I can't just ignore you. Masahiro didn't understand why Kosuke kept wanting to care for him. He begged Kosuke to just leave him alone. Then, unexpectedly, Kosuke crossed the line right then and there. After that, he picked up the bread Masahiro had dropped. He said goodbye and wished Masahiro luck in finding a girlfriend. Masahiro could only stand there, frozen in shock. The next day continued like usual. Masahiro admitted that he couldn't erase the memory of that day from his mind. He still didn't understand what that moment even meant. Maybe Kosuke had just been messing with him. So, he told himself to forget it. He would force himself to forget. Starting now, as soon as he saw Kosuke, he immediately avoided him. Meanwhile, the girls were asking him about the math test. Masahiro admitted that Kosuke really did look the part of a teacher. Since that day, Kosuke hadn't brought up anything. That must mean, 100%, that it was all just a joke. Kosuke came by and reminded him about the upcoming test. He encouraged Masahiro to study hard. Masahiro still didn't understand why Kosuke could act so casually like nothing happened. He politely excused himself, saying he was late. Masahiro still wanted to stay calm. Another school day finally came to an end. He began to worry about the upcoming test. So Oshiba suggested they go study at his house, where his older brother could help tutor them. Masahiro was about to refuse, but he couldn't find any reason to say no. And so, the three of them studied together. But Masahiro kept glancing around, unable to focus. Hasakura caught him red-handed. Oshiba reassured him that his brother had gone out with some friends, so there was no need to feel tense. Later, when Oshiba's mom planned to go grocery shopping, Masahiro offered to go instead. Upon hearing that, Hasakura suddenly volunteered to go shopping with Oshiba. The two of them chatted happily on their way out. Meanwhile, Masahiro stayed home and was shown some old photo albums by Oshiba's mother. Their family had a lot of albums, one for every single year. Masahiro realized that his own mother had never once taken a picture with him. As they flipped through the album, she suddenly found a photo of Masahiro. Right beside it was a picture of Kosuke. There were so many childhood photos of him. It turned out that even as a kid, he was obsessed with studying math. Oshiba's mother went on to share more stories about him. Masahiro found himself learning even more about Kosuke. He never imagined that man had such a different side. Then, Masahiro noticed something in one of the photos and asked about it. Oshiba's mom told him that last year, the whole family had gone to a shrine to pray. And while they were there, Kosuke had prayed on Masahiro's behalf. too. Masahiro couldn't believe he had done something like that for him. He asked politely if he could look through more of the albums. As he flipped through them, a small smile began to form on his face. And just then, Kosuke returned home. He was surprised to see Masahiro enjoying the old photo albums so much. Kosuke walked up to him and gently patted his head, trying to be affectionate, but he used the excuse of going out to buy something and quickly left. He still held on to the same thought. He was certain that Kosuke was only joking with him. It's fine, he told himself. Suddenly, someone came looking for him. Meanwhile, Kosuke stayed at home and began to reflect on himself. In the past, he always believed one thing. No matter how difficult the problem, there was always a way to solve it. But right after that day, he started to realize something important. There was a problem that he couldn't solve on his own. He recalled the day Masahiro begged to become his underling. Masahiro thought that Kosuke was both smart and super cool, so he genuinely wanted to be like him. Kosuke asked Masahiro what kind of things he could do. Masahiro said he could run errands and cook. Kosuke joked that it sounded like being his wife, but he still accepted him. That was the moment they officially got to know each other. Since then, Kosuke gradually felt he understood Masahiro more deeply. He never imagined that his prayer would actually come true. Even luckier, he was assigned to return as Masahiro's teacher. And that was when the hardest problem of his life began to appear. He admitted that at that moment, he did feel a little jealous. But he promised himself he would never say that out loud to Masahiro. The person who came to see Masahiro was none other than the leader of the old gang. That guy said, "Wow, Seti, it's been a long time, hasn't it?" Then the whole group dragged Masahiro to a deserted place. The leader was shocked that Masahiro dared to abandon them all. Even worse, he had the guts to go suck up to that guy. The whole gang still clearly remembered, that was the one who killed the bear. The leader sneered and said, "You should call him teacher. Shouldn't you? At home?" Kosuke was deep in thought. He suddenly realized that Masahiro had never once called him sensei. Meanwhile, on Masahiro's side, one of the guys mocked him, saying even a dog can get promoted one day. They revealed they had been investigating and tracking him for a long time. Masahiro thought they were going to beat him up, but they didn't. Instead, they looked genuinely happy. It was nothing more than joy at finding their beloved pet dog again. Some of them even said they were worried Masahiro might have been bullied. The gang leader said Kosuke had been causing trouble for a lot of people. He even planned to lure Kosuke out and teach him a painful lesson. Masahiro thought, if that really happened, Kosuke would be in serious trouble. If they caused a big scene, it might affect his status as a teacher. The gang leader asked Masahiro if Kosuke had any weaknesses. Masahiro thought for a moment, but believed Kosuke didn't have any. Still, the leader hoped Masahiro would return to the gang like before. He even told Masahiro to go buy food for everyone right away. Masahiro didn't know what to do, so he reluctantly agreed. He wondered whether he should tell Kosuke about all of this. Honestly, he had no idea if he should or shouldn't. After a while, Masahiro returned with the food, but he forgot to buy cheese for one of the members. That guy became extremely angry. Masahiro had no choice but to go buy it again. That guy's name was Yubase. One of the others offered to eat the food if Yubase didn't want it. But Yubase immediately punched him in the face. Then he kept hitting without stopping. Masahiro thought the only thing he could do now was to keep his distance from Kosuke. Once the gang couldn't find him anymore, they would eventually give up. The next day, surprisingly, Masahiro arrived at school late. Oshiba only knew that Masahiro said he stayed up late playing games and overslept. Eventually, Masahiro came to class and apologized to him for being late. His tone and attitude were completely different from usual. Since it was lunchtime, Oshiba invited him to eat together. But Masahiro refused, saying he would eat with someone else. He also mentioned that from now on, his part-time job had overtime, so he wouldn't be coming to Oshiba's house for a while. Oshiba couldn't understand what was going on at all. Masahiro only explained that things were just like that. The other classmates all admitted they had never seen Masahiro act that way before. No one could tell what he might be hiding inside. In the afternoon, Masahiro met Kosuke again. Kosuke was about to ask what dish Masahiro would cook today. But Masahiro replied that he had work today. Kosuke then asked about tomorrow. But Masahiro gave the same answer. He even said the same thing about the day after tomorrow. Masahiro apologized and quickly walked away. Kosuke guessed that something must be going on with him. That evening, they all had dinner at Oshiba's house. Everyone had to eat the food made by Oshiba's mom. The group was clearly terrified by her cooking. After that, the three of them asked to leave early, saying they had homework. Kosuke was sure they were all lying. Oshiba ate without any sign of enjoyment on his face. Still, he believed that Masahiro would be back to normal tomorrow. Hasakura later told Kosuke what had happened at lunch. Kosuke could only think, how unlucky. Meanwhile, at work, Masahiro was feeling deeply conflicted about what he had said. He felt very guilty toward Oshiba. He still didn't know whether he should tell Kosuke the truth or not. His boss had also noticed that he had been distracted lately. The boss was worried that overworking might be affecting Masahiro. But Masahiro said he was fine. His boss and coworker then told him about a super special customer. He was both handsome and could eat a lot incredibly fast. Just as they mentioned him, Hasakura suddenly showed up, and it turned out he was the special customer they talked about. As expected, Hasakura made a huge bowl filled with bean sprouts and eggs. Masahiro asked him how Oshiba was doing. When he heard that Oshiba was acting normal, he looked relieved, but then Hasakura stared at him intensely, which scared Masahiro. Hasakura knew Masahiro was trying to avoid someone. Outside, there was a group of delinquents hanging around. Hasakura asked if Masahiro knew them. Suddenly, Masahiro begged Hasakura not to tell anyone about this. Hasakura simply paid for his meal as a thank you and left. He had finished all the food he ordered. As Masahiro walked past the delinquents, he overheard them talking about Seti. Meanwhile, Oshiba was on the phone talking to his oil buddy, close friend. He said he didn't feel like going to school anymore. He was afraid Masahiro would reject having lunch with him again. Hasakura said that wasn't a good idea. Then Oshiba suggested maybe Hasakura should skip school with him too. But Hasakura didn't agree with that either. He believed everything would be fine and told him to just go to school. The next day at school, Kosuke noticed Masahiro talking to a third-year student. He wondered if Masahiro had stopped being friends with his little brother. Oshiba's group was also feeling down because Masahiro had distanced himself from them. They were all walking to lunch together, still feeling abandoned. Out of nowhere, Hasakura asked Kosuke what he was doing. He asked why Kosuke wasn't doing something already. Letting the situation stay like this, was that really okay? Kosuke was surprised that Hasakura was worried about him. But Hasakura was surprised that Kosuke often cared about others, yet ignored his own problems. He told him, if you want something, then just admit it. He also thought that he should give up. Masahiro returned home, even though he tried to fill his mind with other things. In the end, he still couldn't forget about him. Masahiro kept forcing himself to forget him no matter what. But whenever he closed his eyes, all he saw was his image. It was clear that Masahiro was trying to imitate his figure. But in reality, he was just a weak and helpless boy. Masahiro continued to reflect on his own life. To be honest, his life was completely going nowhere. He thought he could fix everything. But that was impossible. He didn't know when they would stop searching for Kosuke. It was true that they were subordinates of a hero. But just because you're a subordinate, doesn't mean you're a hero too. Masahiro received a phone call, but he firmly refused to pick it up. Deep down, all he wanted was for everything to go back to the way it was. Suddenly, someone tried to open the door to his house. The door was being forced open. Masahiro could only pray for everything to just stop. And surprisingly, everything did stop for a moment. But then, someone smashed the window of his room. Masahiro thought it was the gang leader and tried to explain. But that person was actually Kosuke himself. Masahiro admitted that even heroes have weaknesses. And that weakness is, they won't come to save you. Not until the very last moment of your despair. Masahiro didn't understand why he came here. Kosuke simply said he was just a teacher visiting his student. Meanwhile, the gang was still trying to contact Masahiro. The whole group even planned to come to his house to check on him. And right away, they rushed to his place. Yubase kept calling again, but Masahiro still refused to answer the phone. Meanwhile, the whole group was at Oshiba's house, casually eating and flipping through the family album. They didn't expect Oshiba's family to have so many memories and captured moments. Suddenly, one of the friends noticed a person standing behind Masahiro in a photo. With a hostile expression, that person was none other than Yubase. The group started to recall Masahiro's cooking. Even Oshiba didn't know what Yubase was doing right now. Masahiro's house was in a total mess. He began to share the story about his mother. She had always lived like that, careless and unbothered. She never cared about the house at all. But she wasn't a bad person. Masahiro was truly grateful just to be allowed to attend school. Even as someone like him, Kosuke had already found out everything. And now was the time to talk about why Masahiro had been avoiding him. Kosuke wanted to know the full story. Things like why Masahiro stopped contacting his old friends. For example, Masahiro apologized again for making him worry. But he insisted that it was his personal matter. Kosuke got angry because Masahiro always acted that way. He asked if Masahiro had ever thought about how others feel when they look at him. Kosuke admitted he couldn't just stand by and do nothing. He couldn't bear watching the person he loved suffer right in front of him. And he couldn't even say the things he truly wanted to say. Masahiro brought up the fact that he had been rejected. He reminded Kosuke that he was the one who said those rejecting words. That rejection almost shocked him to death. Kosuke then explained again. Back then, he just wanted Masahiro to keep pretending like he didn't know. He never thought it would trouble Masahiro that much. Masahiro admitted that someone like him didn't deserve to be by Kosuke's side. He believed only someone strong and resilient could. Just then, the doorbell rang again. At the same time, Masahiro's phone started vibrating. It was none other than the gang. They had come to his house. They knew for sure he was home because he didn't go to work today. Masahiro didn't want Kosuke to go out and face them. But there was no way he could stop him. By now, Kosuke had understood why Masahiro had been hiding everything. The entire gang recognized Kosuke as the one who killed the bear. The gang leader assumed that Seti had lured out the bear killer to help them. They now saw Kosuke as nothing more than a frightened little mouse. Today, they wanted to settle the score once and for all. Yubase also finally understood everything. He realized the reason Masahiro didn't answer his calls was because he was with Kosuke. One of the gang members stepped forward. But he couldn't do anything against Kosuke. Kosuke actually looked like he was enjoying himself. He planned to re-educate the entire gang all at once. He wanted to make up for rejecting Masahiro by taking care of the entire gang himself. Both sides agreed to move to another location for the fight. The gang had fully assembled. The battle officially began. In less than a minute and 30 seconds, Kosuke had already taken down a group. To him, it was nothing more than self-defense. But to the gang, Kosuke was a total monster. The fight continued. One by one, each gang member was defeated by Kosuke. For him, everything was as easy as eating candy. Masahiro compared himself to a blade of grass, while Kosuke was like a drifting cloud in the sky. Someone like me has no right to monopolize him. Yubase started to feel bitter. He was angry because Masahiro didn't choose him. The gang leader also began to make his move. Yubase charged at Kosuke to attack him too. But surprisingly, Masahiro took the hit for him. The gang leader punched Yubase as well. He didn't expect Yubase to play such a dirty trick. Kosuke completely lost it. He was about to finish Yubase off. But Masahiro begged him to stop. He said he was okay and not hurt. Everything had already gone too far. Kosuke finally stopped. Masahiro then apologized to the gang leader. He admitted he had been a follower of the bear killer. He apologized for lying. He said he couldn't walk the same path with them anymore. He thanked them for once giving him a place to belong. He knew he owed them a lot. But he asked them to forget both him and the bear killer. Yubase didn't understand why it was always just Masahiro. He was still full of resentment. Toru, the gang leader, thought things had gone far enough. He didn't want to get involved with Kosuke anymore. He didn't want to see Masahiro again either. Then the entire gang walked away. Kosuke tore his shirt to wrap Masahiro's wound. He called Masahiro an idiot for jumping in like that. But Masahiro said he was scared Kosuke might get hurt. Even though he knew Kosuke was strong. Now he finally understood everything. I should ask others for help instead of forcing myself to do all the chores. Right now, I'm working part-time, but I'll seriously think about my future. Because honestly, I really like you, Kosuke. He admitted that he had wanted me to cry in his arms for a long time. Masahiro truly felt warm inside. That warmth came from Kosuke himself. Later, Oshiba's group heard about what happened. Everyone was quite worried about Masahiro. They didn't know what he had done to get injured like that. Kosuke arrived and didn't want the group to keep asking too many questions. He wanted Masahiro to get some rest. He also said Masahiro wouldn't be allowed to cook for a while. Despite everything, they still cared deeply for each other. The group later went out to celebrate Masahiro's return. But they went ahead first, following Hasekura's suggestion. Meanwhile, Masahiro stayed home with his boyfriend. He continued cleaning up using the arm that wasn't injured. Kosuke teased him, saying he looked like a cleaning robot. He told Masahiro not to push himself since he was still hurt. Masahiro obediently went to rest. He didn't say anything out loud. Kosuke noticed he seemed restless. He promised he would come to him as soon as he finished his work. He even suggested that Masahiro should go take a bath first. Or, did he want to bathe together? Kosuke made up his mind right then. He had just finished work anyway. Masahiro panicked and tried to run, but ended up falling flat on his face. He was still super shy being around Kosuke like that. Then, Masahiro revealed that it was Yubase who stabbed him. He said Yubase had no friends, was poor, and also very timid. Masahiro thought the two of them looked very much alike. Both of them had joined the gang at the same time. He believed that maybe they shared a special connection. But that guy had no one by his side. Meanwhile, Masahiro had Kosuke supporting him. Perhaps that guy was still a good person deep down. So, in that moment, he hesitated. That's why Masahiro's injury wasn't too serious. Masahiro picked up a letter that Kosuke had received. Kosuke said it was from a former student. He hadn't read it yet. But Masahiro assumed it was a love letter. Kosuke didn't expect him to be so curious. Still, he didn't mind telling Masahiro everything. It was just from a brave girl who gave it to him before starting university. Of course, he had rejected her directly. Now, he even felt a bit guilty. Because he realized he shouldn't have given her any hope. The two of them kept gazing deeply into each other's eyes. Masahiro admitted that at this moment, he wasn't just a follower or student. He was someone that Kosuke truly loved. Kosuke also confessed that he had wanted to possess Masahiro. Then, he pulled the curtains closed. After that, the two of them stayed intimate with each other. Masahiro thought that if it was Kosuke, he could accept everything. He even begged Kosuke to be gentle with him. Kosuke was still the one to kiss him first. He warned Masahiro not to blame him if he lost control. Afterward, Kosuke suggested they stop pretending to be superior and subordinate. Since they couldn't go public, they might as well go from follower to real partner. That way, Masahiro would become his one and only. They shared another incredibly sweet kiss. A new day began again. Masahiro acknowledged that he now held a new position. Now, he was Kosuke's lover. At last, there was finally a moment of peace. As soon as he arrived at school, Kosuke asked if he had some free time. Then, they snuck off to the stairwell to do that again. Kosuke still wanted to do even more things with him. But Masahiro felt embarrassed because it was inside the school. Kosuke got upset and walked away. Masahiro blamed himself for what happened. He started to feel that maybe his worries were pointless, even though they were in a relationship now. Later, Masahiro told Hasekura that he was dating Kosuke. Hasekura assumed Masahiro was looking for love advice or emotional support. Masahiro admitted that only with Hasekura could he talk about everything honestly. But Hasakura wasn't satisfied with just that. So this time, Masahiro brought even more discount coupons to make up for it. Their conversation continued right away. Masahiro poured out his feelings and thoughts. Meanwhile, Oshiba noticed the two of them talking together. Masahiro wondered whether he should go see Kosuke and apologize for earlier. Hasakura gave his advice, but it didn't help much. When Oshiba came over to ask what was going on, Masahiro didn't want to say, because he was afraid of looking like some naive teenage girl. Oshiba thought the two of them were having an affair. After that, Masahiro decided to go meet his boyfriend. But he didn't know what to say or what to do. The PE teacher appeared. The teacher assumed Masahiro wanted to go in, so he let him. As soon as he stepped inside, he saw Kosuke talking to a girl. But when Kosuke asked him what was wrong, Masahiro just said, "It's nothing," and left. Afterward, he felt utterly pathetic. Then suddenly, he overheard someone saying that they liked Kosuke. It turned out that another student had fallen for her teacher. She was chatting with her friend about it. Masahiro happened to overhear everything. He felt like things were about to get even more complicated. Then, he received a message. Reading it made him smile. That afternoon, the two of them walked home together. Even though Kosuke had asked to be with him, he hadn't said a word the whole time. Masahiro noticed that Kosuke's stomach was growling. Kosuke admitted that he hadn't eaten lunch. Because it was exam season, many students came to ask him questions. He also brought up what happened that morning. He said it wasn't anything serious. Masahiro suggested they stop by a nearby store to buy supplies for the cat at home. Once inside, Masahiro became really excited. His boyfriend suggested that he look around and explore for a bit. Masahiro happily checked out all the animals in the store. Kosuke quietly watched his lover having fun with them. Eventually, it was time for the two of them to head home. Masahiro apologized for losing track of time while playing around. But Kosuke didn't blame him. Instead, he felt glad to see a new side of Masahiro. When they got back home, everyone was already having dinner. Masahiro had no idea where all the food came from. He was told that Young had cooked everything. Young was the new chef of the group. Masahiro began to wonder if he was no longer qualified to cook for everyone. He even teared up with fake crocodile tears when they teased him. Oshiba told him that everyone still really wanted to eat his cooking. Since it had been such a long time, they were all craving it. The group continued chatting together warmly. They started asking each other about their ideal type of girl. Then, they all guessed that Masahiro liked small and cute girls. Kosuke was surprised that the whole group loved talking about girls so much. He also admitted that Masahiro liked small and cute girls. No wonder Masahiro always reacted like that, though he said it casually. Deep down he was really upset. He was seriously uncomfortable. Oshiba even thought his brother might snap and take it out on Masahiro. Kosuke couldn't even stay calm while smoking. After dinner, the group finally parted ways. Oshiba invited his best friend, Oil Guy, to the convenience store. He clearly wanted to leave Masahiro alone with his brother. Kosuke secretly wished he could turn into a tiny, adorable puppy, because then, Masahiro would kiss him without hesitation. Woof woof. Masahiro immediately apologized for everything. He said sorry for making Kosuke upset and angry. But Kosuke was still sulking. He said if Masahiro wanted him to forgive, he had to be the one to kiss him first. That way, maybe his mood would improve. He even brought up how Masahiro had already been promoted to wife status, yet still wasn't ready. Masahiro made up his mind to go for it. He slowly leaned in, step by step, gently. But just as their lips were about to touch, he froze. Once again, Kosuke had to be the one to rely on him. And just like that, his sulking disappeared completely. Kosuke advised Masahiro to just be more confident and take the lead next time. The next day arrived. Masahiro felt like everything had been resolved. He realized the two of them were definitely dating now. So there was no reason to hold back anymore. He had to push himself to be faster. Because only then could he truly be worthy of Kosuke. Masahiro was deep in thought. But he still ended up cooking a lot of food. He arrived at school very early that morning. But Oshiba also came early as well. He had already found out that his friend was dating his older brother. Though now he wasn't sure, was it a girlfriend or a boyfriend? It was actually Hasakura who accidentally spilled the secret. Masahiro was annoyed, but he had no choice but to accept it. That day, Kosuke also arrived at school early. His colleagues figured it was because it was exam season, and everyone was busy. Kosuke tried to focus on work, but his mind kept drifting back to his lover. Meanwhile, Masahiro was secretly sneaking around with the lunchbox he had prepared. Oshiba noticed him and found his behavior very suspicious. But Masahiro refused to say anything about it. Then Hasakura showed up and smelled the food right away. Oshiba guessed the lunch must be specially made for his brother. "What a model girlfriend," he teased. Masahiro explained that he was just doing his best. Hasakura agreed, but warned him not to mess with his friend's boyfriend. Masahiro still felt nervous when facing Kosuke. He had just gathered the courage to give the lunch to him. Then he saw the girl who liked Kosuke approach him. She asked the teacher if he had lunch already. Guessing that he hadn't eaten yet, she brought him food too. Her name was Kinoshita. Kosuke complimented her and said her cooking looked delicious. Masahiro didn't expect to feel like the one who came second. Once again, he got caught by the Oshiba duo. Later that afternoon, Hasakura waited to talk to Kosuke. He accused Kosuke of changing after finally getting what he wanted. Kosuke didn't understand what he meant. Hasakura admitted that he had felt awkward and even hopeless lately. Kosuke said he might look calm on the outside, but inside he was just as confused. He thought that if Masahiro was willing to speak up, everything would be simple. He believed that if Masahiro just said, "Please ignore those girls around you," then both of them would be happy. He also hoped that Hasakura wouldn't worry too much. Hasakura was afraid those moments would end up with him eating Masahiro's terrible cooking. Then Oshiba suddenly showed up again. Thinking this was another case of cheating, Masahiro received a message saying they needed to talk. Later that evening, the two of them finally met. Before anything else, Masahiro apologized first. Meanwhile, his boyfriend was already eating Masahiro's food. The meal had been delivered by Oshiba's group after lunch. He admitted that he hadn't eaten anything at noon. It turned out that he had rejected food from that girl. He clearly stated that he would only eat food cooked by his wife. He told her that directly. He also admitted that if he had received Masahiro's food earlier, he would have had so much more energy today. He didn't accept Masahiro's apology in this situation, because he had already given advice on how to improve Masahiro's mood. Masahiro understood and started taking action. He still moved slowly, step by step, and this time, he dared to kiss his boyfriend on the lips. After that, he was incredibly shy. He even asked his boyfriend to forget it ever happened. But to his boyfriend, this was definitely a memorable day. After that, they finished all the food. Kosuke admitted that food made by his wife was the best in the world. Masahiro then brought up the topic his boyfriend wanted to talk about. He had forgotten about it, so he only mentioned it now. He had brought back the puppy for Shigeo. Back then, he saw how much Masahiro liked it, so he discussed it with his younger brother and decided to raise a dog together. Masahiro was overjoyed and kept kissing the puppy. His boyfriend didn't expect that Masahiro would dare to kiss the dog even more than him. Both of them were very happy together with Shigeo. Today is the 29th. It's a special day for eating meat. The whole group decided to have a barbecue party together. Masahiro was only worried about his boyfriend. He really wanted him to join the group. Just as he mentioned it, he got a call from him. Without hesitation, Masahiro left right away. After that, the group headed out to buy meat. The friends were puzzled why Masahiro liked talking to the math teacher so much. Yet whenever he felt down, he came to talk with them instead. Hasakura didn't want everyone to meddle in other people's business. Seeing the tense mood, Oshiba tried to break up the crowd quickly. One classmate was a little upset that Hasakura sided with Masahiro. That classmate had already informed Masahiro's boyfriend about the barbecue party. He even promised to save a portion of food for him. The boyfriend thought squeezing into the group might be a bit awkward. He admitted that he was busy preparing for exams. But seeing how full of energy his wife was made him feel positive again. Masahiro confessed that not being able to see him often really made him upset. He said that now, he was trying to stand from his boyfriend's point of view. That way, his boyfriend would stop being so stubborn. This time, Masahiro was the one who took the initiative to approach him. He was confident there wouldn't be anyone around at that moment. And this time, he also took the lead and kissed his boyfriend. but it turned out that a classmate had been watching the whole scene. Even so, Masahiro still felt shy afterward. He picked up the things for his boyfriend and left immediately. Kosuke acknowledged that this was a big step forward. That evening, the whole group got together to prepare for the barbecue party. Shigeo the puppy was also super excited to join in. At that moment, Masahiro was already on his way there. Masahiro felt a headache coming on because he had gotten too excited at school. But this was the first time he had ever seen that surprised look in his boyfriend's eyes. The class president of their group came over to the house. He looked completely drained of energy. He stepped inside and shared what he had witnessed at school. He said he had seen Masahiro and Mr. Kosuke kissing. The others were all stunned into silence. He even assumed the two of them were dating. "Maybe I'm the only one who didn't know about this," he said. Just then, Masahiro also arrived. Everyone was shocked to hear what had happened. Shiga reacted by saying it was disgusting. Hasakura said he had no idea about it either. He suggested that maybe the class president had just mistaken something. Oshiba responded to what Shiga had just said. He didn't expect Shiga to call their relationship disgusting. The group told Shiga that he should apologize for going too far. But Shiga insisted, "If I think it's disgusting, what's wrong with saying that?" To Oshiba, Masahiro was already like family. So he told Shiga, "If you dare talk about my brother that way, then just get out. Don't ever come back here again," he added. Shiga left and ended up running into Masahiro on the way. But he just kept walking without saying a single word. Hasakura explained everything that had just happened to Masahiro. The class president apologized, saying he didn't mean to spy on them. Masahiro blamed himself for everything that had happened. Because of the incident, the barbecue party had to be cancelled. The group couldn't understand why Shiga had such an extreme reaction. But Hasakura knew the truth. Shiga had feelings for Masahiro. Oshiba couldn't believe Shiga liked him, yet still called him disgusting. And so, a new day began. Masahiro came to class and realized the atmosphere was still tense. He truly didn't want everyone to feel this uncomfortable because of him. Shiga was still trying his best to avoid him. Meanwhile, Mr. Kosuke had something else he wanted to say to his wife. He already knew everything that had happened. He admitted he wasn't sure how Masahiro planned to handle the situation. He had brought back the puppy for Shigeo. Back then, he saw how much Masahiro liked it. So he discussed it with his younger brother and decided to raise a dog together. Masahiro was overjoyed and kept kissing the puppy. His boyfriend didn't expect that Masahiro would dare to kiss the dog even more than him. Both of them were very happy together with Shigeo. Today is the 29th. It's a special day for eating meat. The whole group decided to have a barbecue party together. Masahiro was only worried about his boyfriend. He really wanted him to join the group. Just as he mentioned it, he got a call from him. Without hesitation, Masahiro left right away. After that, the group headed out to buy meat. The friends were puzzled why Masahiro liked talking to the math teacher so much. Yet whenever he felt down, he came to talk with them instead. Hasakura didn't want everyone to meddle in other people's business. Seeing the tense mood, Oshiba tried to break up the crowd quickly. One classmate was a little upset that Hasakura sided with Masahiro. That classmate had already informed Masahiro's boyfriend about the barbecue party. He even promised to save a portion of food for him. The boyfriend thought squeezing into the group might be a bit awkward. He admitted that he was busy preparing for exams. But seeing how full of energy his wife was made him feel positive again. Masahiro confessed that not being able to see him often really made him upset. He said that now, he was trying to stand from his boyfriend's point of view. That way, his boyfriend would stop being so stubborn. This time, Masahiro was the one who took the initiative to approach him. He was confident there wouldn't be anyone around at that moment. And this time, he also took the lead and kissed his boyfriend. But it turned out that a classmate had been watching the whole scene. Even so, Masahiro still felt shy afterward. He picked up the things for his boyfriend and left immediately. Kosuke acknowledged that this was a big step forward. That evening, the whole group got together to prepare for the barbecue party. Shigeo the puppy was also super excited to join in. At that moment, Masahiro was already on his way there. Masahiro felt a headache coming on because he had gotten too excited at school. But this was the first time he had ever seen that surprised look in his boyfriend's eyes. The class president of their group came over to the house. He looked completely drained of energy. He stepped inside and shared what he had witnessed at school. He said he had seen Masahiro and Mr. Kosuke kissing. The others were all stunned into silence. He even assumed the two of them were dating. "Maybe I'm the only one who didn't know about this," he said. Just then, Masahiro also arrived. Everyone was shocked to hear what had happened. Shiga reacted by saying it was disgusting. Hasakura said he had no idea about it either. He suggested that maybe the class president had just mistaken something. Oshiba responded to what Shiga had just said. He didn't expect Shiga to call their relationship disgusting. The group told Shiga that he should apologize for going too far. But Shiga insisted, "If I think it's disgusting, what's wrong with saying that?" To Oshiba, Masahiro was already like family. So he told Shiga, "If you dare talk about my brother that way, then just get out. Don't ever come back here again," he added. Shiga left and ended up running into Masahiro on the way. But he just kept walking without saying a single word. Hasakura explained everything that had just happened to Masahiro. The class president apologized, saying he didn't mean to spy on them. Masahiro blamed himself for everything that had happened. Because of the incident, the barbecue party had to be cancelled. The group couldn't understand why Shiga had such an extreme reaction. But Hasakura knew the truth. Shiga had feelings for Masahiro. Oshiba couldn't believe Shiga liked him, yet still called him disgusting. And so, a new day began. Masahiro came to class and realized the atmosphere was still tense. He truly didn't want everyone to feel this uncomfortable because of him. Shiga was still trying his best to avoid him. Meanwhile, Mr. Kosuke had something else he wanted to say to his wife. He already knew everything that had happened. He admitted he wasn't sure how Masahiro planned to handle the situation. Masahiro felt like the group was being awkward because of him. But Kosuke reassured him once again, it wasn't his fault. Still, Masahiro kept apologizing over and over. His boyfriend punished him with playful teasing. He said he didn't expect Masahiro to always be like this. Probably, Masahiro had never even fought with any of his friends before. Then Kosuke gave his wife some advice. Don't care if he ignores you. Just grab him and make him listen. Help him solve whatever's been bothering him. That's all. The two of them continued joking and laughing together. Kosuke thought about taking the initiative again but changed his mind. He wanted Masahiro to be the one to take the next step. Meanwhile, Shiga had joined up with the rest of the class. But deep down, he felt like he didn't really belong. He started remembering the happy moments he had shared with the group. All those good memories came rushing back to him. One of the guys asked Shiga directly why he had gotten into that argument. Shiga finally opened up and shared everything. The friend pointed out that everyone else had known, only Shiga didn't. He even gave Shiga a bit of a reality check to help him understand. Right now, Shiga was the one in the wrong and hadn't realized it from the start. After both Masahiro and Shiga had sorted through their thoughts and understood what needed to be done, they both wanted to meet up immediately and talk things out. And just like that, they ran into each other on the street. Masahiro looked Shiga in the eyes and said, "I like Kosuke. And I love him," Masahiro said firmly. "Honestly, it was my fault for not telling you earlier. But that doesn't mean I deserved to be treated like that." Masahiro called him out and asked Shiga to explain himself clearly. Shiga admitted his fault and promised to say everything. But he asked Masahiro to be the one to ask the questions. Masahiro asked, "Why were you fine with Oshiba and Hasakura dating, but not me?" Shiga said it was because Masahiro was just too cool. "You can do everything. You're kind, good-looking, totally badass. That's why. I just couldn't accept the fact that you were dating that ridiculous old man." Masahiro was absolutely shocked. "I can't believe this. Are you serious right now?" Shiga admitted that he was just too stunned and blurted things out. But he understood now, it had been his fault. He really wanted to talk more with Masahiro like before. And just like that, things started to fall back into place. The group returned to their usual happy, silly dynamic. The long-awaited barbecue party was finally held. Even Shiga started to see a new side of that ridiculous old man. After the storm, the sun always shines. The next day, everyone gathered again at Oshiba's house. They laughed, studied, and hung out just like before. Masahiro was in the kitchen, cooking. Kosuke came looking for his wife, hoping for a little affection. But Masahiro, still haunted by what happened last time, was terrified someone might see them. He couldn't believe his boyfriend still hadn't learned his lesson. Kosuke admitted that yes, he understood now. Then he pulled Masahiro close and whispered for him not to say a word. He grabbed the keys and took his wife out for a little drive. Masahiro handed over dinner duty to Hasakura. Meanwhile, Kosuke drove him to a hotel. Masahiro was completely stunned. This felt like a red alert emergency to him. His brain nearly exploded from not knowing how to process the situation. Kosuke explained calmly that the house and the school were always full of people. This was the only place where they could truly be alone. Masahiro was horrified, but Kosuke grinned and said he was only joking. He promised he wouldn't do anything. But somehow, the two of them ended up lying on the same bed. Kosuke asked if they could just stay like this for a while. He admitted he could hear Masahiro's heart beating like crazy. Masahiro also admitted that this was just way too much for him to handle. But to Kosuke, it was something perfectly normal. All he wanted was to hold his lover close when he was tired. Lately, work had been piling up non-stop, and it was exhausting. Masahiro felt a wave of sympathy. He really had been working so hard. Eventually, Kosuke fell asleep right there. Still holding him. Quietly, Masahiro reached out and held his hand. His heart swelled with happiness. Before they knew it, the night had passed. Masahiro couldn't believe he had actually fallen asleep. He panicked at the thought of anyone finding out. So, he immediately started pretending that nothing had happened. Kosuke handed him something he had left behind, Masahiro's cooking apron. And just like that, a new day began at school. That morning, Kosuke was approached by a female colleague. She asked if he would consider joining the school's advisory board. She said she really hoped he'd help, because he had a gift for understanding the hearts of students. Meanwhile, Masahiro's group of friends were growing suspicious. "So, where exactly were you yesterday?" they asked. "You only spoke vaguely and didn't dare to tell the truth." Hasakura knew it wasn't like that, but he didn't want to make things clear. Their group of friends wasn't even sure whether it was true or not. Because if someone happened to witness it, things would become awkward. The whole group agreed that in the worst case, their teacher might get fired. Oshiba firmly believed that everything would turn out fine. He said everyone just needed to act normally and stay relaxed. Kosuke came looking for his lover again. He wanted Masahiro to meet him after school. He said that someone might have already discovered the truth. It was actually Ayaka who had found out about both of them. But Kosuke knew it was really his detective friend who leaked it. That person was Hoju, Ayaka's husband, so that made Hoju the brother-in-law of Hasakura. Ayaka had come here to discuss something else. Hoju thought it was time to get straight to the point. The couple told Masahiro that Kosuke might be arrested, because Kosuke always did shady and questionable things. Masahiro wouldn't be in trouble because he was just the victim. He was merely seduced and wouldn't be held responsible. The sentence reduction could depend on Masahiro's testimony. After hearing that, Masahiro started to tremble in fear. But then he suddenly confessed that he was the one who approached Kosuke first. Hoju considered this a very important statement. He wanted to know what else had happened after that. Masahiro said he was willing to admit anything. But Hoju asked such strange questions that his wife told him to stop. He apologized and said it was just part of his job habits. Masahiro then realized this was all just a prank. It turned out the couple was just testing his honesty the whole time. Now that they understood everything, the issue was considered resolved. After that, Kosuke explained that the couple only did this because they cared about him and had their own way of showing it. Masahiro also remembered that if anything happened, he would be fired. Then he asked permission to leave early. Kosuke intended to take him home, but Masahiro wanted him to stay and hang out with friends. Masahiro ran home while deep in thought. He admitted that too many things kept happening to him. Hoju hoped Kosuke would take good care of his wife. Kosuke's work at the school would continue the next day. His female colleague kept asking him many questions. She felt that he was very close to his student. But Kosuke only pretended to ignore it. He just continued with his work. When he arrived at class, Oshiba told him that Masahiro said he couldn't sleep. Seeing this, Oshiba asked to postpone the morning consultation appointment to the next day. Because he couldn't ignore it when his student was unwell. Especially since that student was his wife. The two of them then went home together. Oshiba kept asking why Masahiro couldn't sleep. Masahiro only hoped that Oshiba wouldn't worry. Because he was fine, Kosuke still asked for the reason clearly. But if Masahiro wasn't tired, the two of them would go on a date. Kosuke took Masahiro to a place where they could enjoy the sunset. He also told him that there would be a meteor shower there next Sunday. So he wanted the two of them to watch the stars together. Masahiro's attitude remained the same, which annoyed Kosuke. Indeed, Masahiro was very afraid that people would see both of them. People might even think the two of them were arguing. Masahiro realized that it really wasn't a good moment, because both of them were still wearing their school uniforms. But Kosuke didn't want Masahiro to worry about this, because even if they were discovered, it wouldn't matter. Even though Kosuke didn't want to quit his job, if it came to that, he decided to just let it go. Masahiro got angry again, because he didn't know how to take care of himself. Masahiro was afraid that if Kosuke lost his job, it would hurt him deeply. But Kosuke said that even if that happened, he would still accept that painful person, because Masahiro was more important to him than anything else he had. Masahiro could only wish that he could respond to that. Although his heart was hurting badly, he really wanted to protect Kosuke. But he was still very scared. He ran away again. Kosuke no longer felt like doing anything. He went out to drown his sorrows in alcohol. He also confided in his friend about his situation. He didn't expect that Masahiro was so worried. Masahiro even said he was very scared. His friend gave him some advice. Because he was an outsider, he had a more objective perspective. He firmly stated that Kosuke was not Masahiro's hero. Kosuke felt very upset about this comment. Masahiro returned home. His mother was still drunk and only talked about plans for the next trip. Masahiro went straight to his room, angry because he didn't want to be disturbed. He was still struggling with many thoughts in his head. He truly loved Kosuke very much. The next day, Kosuke went to the principal's office to see him. Shiga happened to pass by and saw this. He decided to eavesdrop. Young joined him. The principal thought Kosuke no longer needed to be a temporary teacher. After that, the news reached Oshiba's group. The group wondered if the principal was going to fire their teacher. They also thought maybe everything had been discovered. The group didn't know whether Masahiro had found out about the situation. Today, he was absent from school again. Oshiba decided to talk to his older brother. Masahiro skipping school made his heart feel even heavier. His boyfriend's words kept echoing in his head. He didn't understand why he kept tormenting himself when he loved him so much. Masahiro received a phone call from his close friends. Then, he also got a message from Oshiba. Oshiba informed him that his older brother had been dismissed. Masahiro immediately wanted to go see him right away. While running, he recalled all their memories together. Class had just ended. Masahiro arrived at the school. Just as he was about to go see the principal, Oshiba pulled him aside. The two of them had a proper talk after that. Masahiro thought that if he hadn't skipped school, Mr. Kosuke wouldn't have ended up like this. He believed it was all his fault. But Oshiba told him he had completely misunderstood. The principal actually wanted Kosuke to become an official teacher. The principal even hoped he would do his best in that role. Masahiro could only respond with a long, awkward, "Oh." Oshiba thought they should both celebrate for him. Masahiro even thought of throwing a surprise party. Hasakura had just arrived as well. That day, Oshiba was also going to Hasakura's house. So he hoped Masahiro would come too, and help plan everything together. Hasakura's condition was that Masahiro had to cook for everyone. Masahiro went shopping to prepare the food. But for some reason, he couldn't feel happy for Kosuke. Heavy rain had started pouring outside. Oshiba had already prepared the plan for the party. It was already 8 p.m., but Masahiro still hadn't returned. Just as they mentioned him, Masahiro came back. He simply apologized for being late. Then, Oshiba explained the plan to him. The most exciting part was that Masahiro himself would be the gift for Kosuke. Masahiro strongly refused the idea. After that, he went to cook. Oshiba and Hasakura both agreed that something was clearly bothering him. Masahiro admitted that now Kosuke had become an official teacher. That meant the school would have even higher expectations of him. So if anyone found out he was seeing someone like himself, it would be even more serious. He didn't understand why they couldn't just love each other peacefully. All three of them became flustered over the issue. Masahiro started to see himself as the main problem. He believed that if he caused any trouble, he would drag Kosuke down. Hasakura asked what he would do if Kosuke decided to end the relationship. Masahiro said he would accept it. If that's what Kosuke wanted, then he would go along with it. Oshiba insisted his older brother was not that kind of person. Masahiro said he was just thinking about what's best for Kosuke. But Hasakura saw it as forcing someone else to make hard decisions for him. He said running away from the problem wouldn't solve anything. Oshiba hoped Masahiro would face his brother properly. But Masahiro believed neither of them understood him at all. Meanwhile, Kosuke was planning to tell his wife the good news. He also recalled the things Masahiro had said. But in the end, he didn't have the courage to send the message. He finished work and headed home. Hoju happened to walk by. So the two of them went home together. Hoju congratulated his friend for becoming a full-time teacher. At that moment, Kosuke didn't feel particularly happy. Hoju knew for sure that he was worried about his beloved partner. Oshiba was chasing after Masahiro in the rain. Meanwhile, in the car, Kosuke and Hoju were still having a heart-to-heart talk. Two experienced men, opening up to one another. Hoju firmly said that his friend had already passed the point of no return. After hearing that, Kosuke quietly got out of the car without saying a single word. He and Masahiro passed by each other unknowingly. The liquor shop owner happened to see Masahiro sitting alone in an alley. He then approached and helped him, inviting him for a cup of coffee. The two of them also had a deep conversation afterward. The man already knew about Masahiro and Kosuke's relationship. He asked if Masahiro regretted crossing the line between teacher and student. Masahiro thought more and more people were finding out about them. The man said whether they hid it or made it public, either path was full of thorns. Because both he and Kosuke were in such a difficult position, he understood that they were both genuinely serious and sincere with each other. But what about 10 or 20 years down the line? No one could predict that future. He asked if Masahiro knew why he was so drawn to him. But Masahiro left immediately upon realizing what the man meant. Oshiba was still trying to contact his older brother, but couldn't reach him, so he thought he might as well go home and check. Kosuke had just gotten home himself. Meanwhile, Masahiro was on the train, recalling the words from earlier. The reason for that attraction was Masahiro's eyes. Pleading to be saved, Kosuke could never ignore someone weak and helpless. He always reached out his hand to lift them up and rescue them. But in exchange, he failed to be Masahiro's hero. Because now, they were both hurting each other. When Oshiba met his brother at home, he told him everything about Masahiro. After hearing it all, Kosuke apologized and admitted it was his fault. Because he was the one who made Masahiro suffer. Oshiba was frustrated and confused. He couldn't understand what the hell was going on between them. Everyone was incredibly hard to understand. Masahiro still didn't know what he should do or where he should go. Back home, Kosuke had found the party planning notebook. Then, he decided to call his lover. This time, Masahiro actually answered. Right now, Kosuke was very worried about him. Masahiro still congratulated him. He believed Kosuke would become an even better teacher. He thanked him for everything he had done for him. Masahiro cried. Kosuke thought there were too many misunderstandings between them. Masahiro said the time spent with him had been pure happiness. Walking beside him felt like a dream. Once again, he thanked Kosuke for everything. Then, he hung up the call and threw his phone away. To him, everything had ended. Masahiro spent the entire night sleeping on the beach. At sunrise, he took the train back home. As he looked around, everything felt too familiar, full of memories. But it was time to start forgetting. A life that no longer included him. He overheard people talking about a meteor shower happening this Sunday. Immediately, he remembered what Kosuke had said about it. But that plan was already ruined. By coincidence, he ran into Oshiba's mom and their two close friends. His mother left first. Oshiba apologized for what happened the day before. He still hoped Masahiro would consider the surprise party. But Masahiro told him he had already broken up with Kosuke. Oshiba was a bit shocked to hear that. Masahiro didn't explain any further and simply walked away. Meanwhile, Kosuke was still trying to reach him and had gone to his house as well. There was no one at home, so he had no choice but to leave a letter and walk away. Masahiro went to the park and hid. Memories and past moments kept resurfacing in his mind. But eventually, Kosuke managed to find him. Kosuke even admitted that he was quite impressed with himself for tracking Masahiro down here. He brought up the topic of their breakup. He wondered when Masahiro had actually planned it. Kosuke thought he might have pressured Masahiro too much. Looking back now, he realized all that pressure had been meaningless. He asked Masahiro to come with him for a while. They went to buy food for the pets at home. Kosuke still cared about Masahiro. As if the breakup had never happened. The two of them continued walking together. Masahiro admitted it had been a long time since he had smelled cigarette smoke. Especially the scent that belonged to Kosuke. Even though Masahiro had told him to quit smoking, that scent still lingered and soaked into his school uniform. After that, they picked out the pet food together. Masahiro showed him the details so he could buy it by himself in the future. Kosuke asked if Masahiro wouldn't come to play with the animals anymore after today. Masahiro replied that today was just for buying pet food. After that, he stepped outside to wait. The two of them continued walking home together. And they kept talking, sharing their thoughts and feelings. Kosuke talked about his job as a teacher. At one point, he said he wouldn't let Masahiro graduate from him. "Because you're very special to me," he said. "So I won't let you go." Masahiro felt that it was Kosuke who had wanted to end things. Kosuke thought Masahiro had misunderstood everything. What he meant by ending it was just to close the topic of that meaningless breakup. Masahiro was left standing there, frozen like he had just been hit by Diao-chan's second skill. Kosuke said he didn't even get a chance to speak before Masahiro hung up. Masahiro felt disappointed in himself once again. Kosuke apologized to him. But he also asked if maybe breaking up would be better for both of them. He said he wanted Masahiro's answer by tomorrow. He reminded Masahiro of their plan to watch the meteor shower together. So he asked Masahiro to think carefully tonight. If Masahiro wanted to start over, he should meet him on the mountain they had promised. Kosuke promised that he would wait for him there. That night, Masahiro went home and started to think things through. Meanwhile, Kosuke went to a jewelry store. The next day arrived, and in the blink of an eye, it was already late afternoon. Surprisingly, Masahiro's mother asked him about his love life. Because she had seen him crying in his sleep. She even wondered if, as his mother, she had failed to notice whether he was in love like other people. Today was also Christmas Day. Masahiro still didn't know whether he should go out or not. His mother brought up the letter on the table. It was the letter Kosuke had left when Masahiro wasn't home. News about the upcoming meteor shower was being broadcast on TV.